This is GoMath lesson 2.9, and in this lesson we are going to work on problem solving, and we are going to use problem solving skills in order to solve multi-step multiplication problems. So let's start with this first problem, and it says that at the Sea Park, one section in the stadium has 9 rows with 18 seats in each row. In the center of each of the first 6 rows, 8 seats are in the splash zone. How many seats are not in the splash zone? So the first thing I need to do is look at the question and decide what am I trying to find. The question says, how many seats are not in the splash zone? And I think it's really important to remember that we're looking for the ones that are not in the splash zone. So I'm going to circle that word right there. Now I need to find out what information in this problem is important for me to know. So the first thing that I think is important is that one section has 9 rows with 18 seats in each row. And that there's another section, but it's in the center of that section. And the first 6 rows, there are 8 seats in each of those rows that are in the splash zone. So those are the important numbers or the important information that I need to know for this problem. Now, I need to decide what kind of a math problem am I going to do. Am I going to add, subtract, times, or divide? And I'm looking for clue words, and the first clue word that I see is each. That the stadium has 9 rows with 18 seats in each row. If I see the words in each, that's a pretty good indicator that I'm going to multiply because we have equal groups where they each have something. So I'm probably going to use multiplication in order to solve this. But to kind of get a better picture of what this looks like, I'm going to draw a model, draw a diagram to help me solve this. So down here, I'm going to draw this section of seats. And it told me up here that there were 9 rows in this section with 18 seats in each row. So I'm going to write 9 rows out to the side, and I'm going to write 18 seats. Because I could draw grid lines, and I could draw each of the rows, and I could draw each of the seats, but I'm not going to do that because that just takes way too much time, and I don't need to do that because I can use math to figure it out instead. Now I need to find the splash zone. It told me up here that it was in the first 6 rows, and there were 8 seats in each of those rows. So maybe let's just draw it like this. And I'm going to say that there are 6 rows back because that's what the problem up here told me, and that there are 8 seats across in the splash zone. So I'm going to write 8 seats. Alrighty, so now I have to multiply in order to figure out how many seats are in each section. Let's do the whole section first because I know that the whole section altogether is 18 seats across and 9 rows back. So in order to do that, I'm going to do 18 times 9. I'm going to use the partial product method that we learned before. So I'm going to think 9 times 1 is just 9, but that one's really worth 10. So my answer is going to be 90 for that one. Then I'm going to do 9 times 8. The 8 is just worth 8, so I don't need to worry about adding any zeros. 9 times 8 is 72. Here are my 2 partial products, and I need to add them together. 0 plus 2 is 2. 9 plus 7 is 16. So I know that there are 162 seats in the whole entire section altogether. So I'm going to put 162 seats in all. In the whole entire section, there's 162 seats. Now I need to find out how many seats are in this splash zone. So I look at my numbers, I knew that it was 8 seats across and 6 rows back. So I'm going to do 6 times 8 in order to figure that one out. And 6 times 8 equals 48 seats. So I'm going to write that in right here to help me get a better picture. Alright, there are 48 seats in the splash zone and there are 162 seats in all. Now before I decide on an answer, I need to go back and reread the question in order to make sure that I figure out the right answer. It says, how many seats are not in the splash zone? So I think that I probably can take all of the seats all together, take away the seats that are in the splash zone, and that will tell me how many seats are left that are not in the splash zone. So I am going to do 162, and I'm going to take away 48. Well, I can't do 2 take away 8, so I need to borrow or regroup from the tens place. That 6 becomes a 5, and this 2 becomes a 12. 12 take away 8 is 4. 5 take away 4 is 1. And 1 take away nothing is just 1. So there are 114 seats that are not in the splash zone. Let's try another one. This other one is very similar to this one. And the question says that at the Sea Park, one section of the Shark Theater has 8 rows with 14 seats in each row. In the middle of the section, 4 rows of 6 seats are reserved. How many seats are not reserved? So again, I need to go through and find my important information. First of all, what is the question? What am I trying to find? Well, the question is how many seats are not reserved? And again, there's that important word, not. That's going to totally change my answer if I forget that it's there. So how many seats are not reserved? Now I'm going to go through and find the important numbers. One section of the Shark Theater has 8 rows with 14 seats in each row. I think that's probably pretty important. So one of the sections has 8 rows with 14 seats in each. And the next one says that in the middle of the section, 4 rows of 6 seats are reserved. So I think those numbers are probably pretty important. Just like the last problem, I'm going to draw a picture in order to help me visualize this a lot better. Oh, and I forgot that up here, here are my words in each again, so I'm probably going to multiply to solve this. Here is my picture of the Shark Theater. And I know that there are 8 rows with 14 seats in each. So I'm going to write 14 seats across, and it goes 8 rows back. Alrighty, now let's find the reserved section. It says in the middle of the section. So it's going to be right in here. This is the reserved section, and there are only 4 rows that are reserved. And there are 6 seats in each of those rows that are reserved. Not very many. Okay, so firstly, I need to find how many seats there are in the whole entire theater altogether. So I'm going to do 14 times 8 because that tells me in the whole section of the Shark Theater. So 14 times 8. I'm going to use partial product again. 8 times 1 is 8, but the 1's really worth 10, so that one becomes 80. And 8 times 4 is 32. Going to add my 2 partial products. 0 plus 2 is 2. 8 plus 3 is 11. So there are 112 seats in all. Alrighty. Now I need to find how many seats are in this reserved section right here. And I'm going to remember there are 6 seats across and 4 rows back. So 6 times 4 equals 24 seats. There are only 24 seats that are reserved. Okay, now that I know all of my information about this diagram, I'm going to go back and reread the question and see how I'm going to solve it. How many seats are not reserved? Well, I know that there are 24 seats that are reserved, and there's 112 seats in all, so I can do subtraction again in order to figure out how many seats right here are on the outside that are not reserved. So I'm going to do 112, going to take away 24. Well, I can't do 2 take away 4, so I have to regroup from my tens. That becomes a 0, and this becomes a 12. 12 take away 4 is 8. Then I look right here. I can't do 0 take away 2, so I have to regroup again. I trade one of my hundreds, and I get 10 tens. 10 take away 2 is 8. And I have no hundreds left. So that leaves me with 88 seats that are not reserved.